This is On the Line, and I'm Eric Felton. Europe is back in recession, with the region's economy contracting for most of this year. Germany and France managed a tiny amount of growth, but even those major economies are struggling. This week, the Moody's credit agency downgraded France's credit rating. What are the prospects for Europe's sputtering economy? And what does it mean for global trade? I'll ask my guest, Andrew Stuttaford, contributing editor to National Review Online. Welcome, Andrew. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, it's great to be here.
So, has Europe, though it is slipped back into recession, has the situation in Europe basically stabilized?
No, I don't think it has. I think, unfortunately, if you like, the contagion is spreading north. So you did see Germany and France hang on to minuscule levels of growth, but the pace there is clearly slowing. And actually, if you take it, if you extend it a little further, you can even see now the slowdown getting to countries such as Sweden, which up to now have been basically immune from these problems. So no, getting worse, not better, I fear.
And how long is this likely to go on? It's been going on for years now, and recently at a regional party conference, German Chancellor Angela Merkel told local officials that she expected the EU crisis to go on for maybe 5 years or more.
Yes, and possibly she was being optimistic, because what she was talking about there was essentially an economic and financial crisis. She didn't dwell on the political crisis, and if you've got an unemployment rate of 25% or so in Greece and Spain, not to speak of the terrible rates of youth unemployment, the idea that we're going to get through this without a substantial political crisis is nutty. In essence, and there is no easy solution to this at all. Coulda, shoulda, woulda. They should never have introduced this ludicrous currency in the first place. But the problem, what you have, is the currency as it's currently constituted. That's the problem. They're trying to rescue the currency, but that's rather like coming to the rescue of the disease rather than the patient.
Now, you mentioned the political fallout in this, and we see that this weekend there's a vote in the Catalonia region of Spain that many are seeing as possibly leading to a separatist secession from Spain for the region of Catalonia. Are we going to see the political pressures from this economic crisis playing out on a grand scale in Europe?
Well, the answer to that, I suspect, yes. But it's interesting because there are different ways that people are reacting politically and different sort of things that they are calling for. Now, if you take Greece, the protest is basically they feel that austerity has gone too far, that it's become self-defeating, and there's quite a lot of strength to that argument. But what is interesting about the Catalonian situation, and who knows how they will vote. There have been some recent indications suggesting they might take a little step back from the push for some sort of move to independence. But really what you have in Catalonia is the greater European, the Eurozone problem in microcosm. Because really what the Catalans are saying is, yes, they have a crunch at the moment, but actually they are a net contributor to to Spain as a whole. And they rather resent the sort of transfer payments, effectively, that the Catalan economy is making to everyone else. And if you think about that for a second, what those who wish to preserve the Eurozone in its current form are arguing is that basically Germany, Finland, even sort of Holland, even poor Estonia, should really indefinitely be sending money down south. There's not a lot of political enthusiasm for really sending money out of your own country. Now, admittedly, a lot of Catalans don't consider that Spain is their own country, but they share the same borders, at least for now, and yet they don't like the idea of transfer payments any more than the Flemings like bailing out Belgium, so to speak.
Now, one of the things you mentioned was the question of austerity versus growth strategies, and seems to be the big debate that's been going on for well over a year. Is that debate changing as the austerity efforts are playing out, and is it really an either-or situation where you either pursue some kind of stimulus growth effort or you go to massive austerity? Is there some other way that people are looking at?
I don't think it's an either-or, but I think that you have to accept that, I mean, you can, and again, if you look in different European countries or different Eurozone countries, different things have worked. If you take a look at Estonia, for example, where they had, and indeed the other Baltic states, but Estonia, of course, is actually now formally in the Eurozone. There they had a very draconian austerity measures, and the economy has bounced back quite strongly, helped by the fact that exports are a very high percentage of GDP, and to the extent that Europe climbed out of the 2008-2009 trough, Estonia did quite well with it. So there, in a sense, you can say they haven't retrieved, they haven't got back to their old levels, but they've come quite a long way. So there you can say that austerity has worked tolerably well. On the other hand, if you look at the Greek situation, where undoubtedly you need to clean the country up, it's a mess. There's been overspending. The tax raising situation for years has been completely dysfunctional. But at the same time, if you keep tightening the ratchet, what happens is economic activity declines. And as it declines, it takes tax revenues ultimately with it, and the deficit gets worse, not better. The problem is, how do you fill that gap? And the answer is you fill that gap with money basically being grabbed from taxpayers at the end, from taxpayers elsewhere in Europe, specifically the North, and they have never really given their democratic approval to that.
Let's talk a little bit about the global impact of this. You mentioned that Estonia had climbed out of its difficulties in large measure through international trade. What are the prospects for Europe being able to sort of trade its way to out of this problem? And on the flip side, what are the problems for the world economy, for exporters like China that rely on Europe as a market?
Well, I think they are fairly considerable. I mean, if you look, firstly, can Europe trade its way out of this? Well, that of course is the hope, and they would be helped further in that if the euro were to start depreciating again with a vengeance, and it would need to come down a long way. So there is some hope that they could do that. The problem that they have is that who's going to buy their goods? Because you have China. I think growth there is now, I think it's running. It's still impressive, sort of 7.5% or so. But it's about it's the lowest it's been for many years. And in a sense, the Chinese need the Europeans to be good customers, and sort of vice versa. And so that's not so great. And then we have the US. The US is, if we put the fiscal cliff to one side, is sort of muddling along in a very sort of low-grade recovery. I don't see it as being a dramatically exciting source of joy for European exporters. Equally, the other way around, if you look at it, there's no doubt if you look at the attitude of larger American companies, and again, it's a little difficult to separate this from the concern over the fiscal cliff, but clearly they are scaling back on their spending plans, and part of that which is bad for the US domestic economy, of course, but part of that reflects their concern about lack of demand in Europe. So no, there's not a lot of blue sky out there at the moment.
Well, Andrew, we only have a minute or two left, but I wonder on this question of sort of global economy and the geopolitics around it, are people in Europe thinking about how the long-term sort of struggles of the European economy affect Europe's broader role in world politics?
Well, yes, they are. I mean, the whole European project, if you like, has a couple of facets. One was it's always described as the great peacemaking project, but the other side of it was felt that Europe together would have more weight in the world. They still do. I think many people in Europe, and certainly in the political class, continue to believe that, but they are aware that given that they believe in soft power, they're not sort of talking about putting on the colonial hat again. What they need is more prosperity and to wave around, and that's lacking. And as the prosperity fades, so does their influence. I think people understand that.
Well, I'm afraid that's all the time we have for today. Andrew Stuttaford of National Review Online, thanks so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Before we go, I'd like to invite you to send us your questions or comments. You can reach us through our website at voanews.com/ontheline. Thanks for tuning in, and I hope you'll join us again next week for On the Line.